If you can hear it right now, that thin, high sound sitting behind everything, the one that gets louder, the quieter the room becomes, then this video was made for you. And the first thing I want to say is this: you are not imagining it. You are not losing your mind. And it is not simply something you have to live with because you happen to be over 60. I've spent more than 20 years in internal medicine, and I can tell you that ringing in the ears is one of the most dismissed symptoms in the whole of adult medicine. People mention it at the very end of an appointment, almost apologetically, with one hand already on the door. And far too often, they're told the same 3 words: it's just age. That answer is wrong, and it's lazy, because that ringing is not a disease in itself. It's a signal. It's your ear reporting that something upstream has changed, and there are 7 different things it could be reporting. Some are trivial and fixable in 10 minutes in a doctor's office. One of them is a genuine emergency, and most people have never heard of it. I'm going to go through all 7, plainly, one after another. No build-up, no holding anything back for the end. You'll know what each one is the moment I get to it. Before I start, if you're new here, this channel is where I explain the things that appointments have become too short to cover. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it tells me to keep making these. Now let's get into it. First, let me explain what that sound actually is, because understanding this changes how you think about everything that follows. Deep inside your inner ear sits a small spiral structure called the cochlea. Inside it are thousands of microscopic hair cells, arranged in order by pitch, like keys on a piano. High frequencies at one end, low frequencies at the other. When sound reaches them, they bend, and that bending becomes the electrical signal your brain interprets as sound. Here is the critical fact: those hair cells do not regenerate. Once one is gone, it's gone for life, and over decades, they are lost from noise, from circulation, from medications, from time itself. The high-frequency ones go first, which is why the world doesn't get quieter as you age so much as it gets muddier. Consonants blur before volume drops. Now, what does your brain do when a section of that piano goes silent? It does not simply accept the silence. Your brain expects input from every frequency, and when a range goes quiet, it turns up its own internal gain, straining to hear something that is no longer being sent. And in that straining, it generates noise of its own, a phantom sound, a ringing, or a hiss, or a high electrical whine in roughly the frequency range where the signal went missing. The closest comparison I can give you is phantom limb pain. A person loses a hand and still feels it because the brain has not stopped listening on that channel. Tinnitus is the same phenomenon in the ear. The sound is real in the sense that you genuinely perceive it. It's simply being generated inside your head rather than outside it. Which brings us directly to the first and most common thing your ringing ears are telling you. Number 1, you are almost certainly losing hearing you have not yet noticed. This is the answer for the large majority of people. Tinnitus and hearing loss travel together so consistently that when someone tells me their ears ring, my first assumption is that there's hearing loss behind it until a test says otherwise. And here's the part that matters, the part that makes this worth acting on. The ringing very often shows up before the hearing loss becomes obvious to you. You are still following conversations. You still hear the telephone. Nothing feels wrong, but the ringing has already started because the brain noticed the missing frequencies long before you did. That means the ringing is an early warning, not a late one. You have more time than you think and more options than you think. What to do about it is straightforward. Get a proper hearing test, not a phone app, not a free screening at a shopping center, but a full audiogram with an audiologist. It's painless, it takes under an hour, and Medicare covers diagnostic testing when a doctor orders it for a medical reason, which ringing in the ears absolutely is. And here is something almost nobody is told. For a great many people, properly fitted hearing aids reduce the ringing, sometimes dramatically. It makes complete sense once you understand the mechanism. If the brain is generating noise because it's starved of input, and you restore the input, the brain has less reason to generate the noise. People go looking for something to silence the ringing and never realize the answer might be the thing they've been avoiding for a decade out of vanity. Number 2, your ear canal may simply be blocked with wax. I put this second on purpose because it's the most common cause with a genuinely easy fix, and it's astonishing how often it's the whole answer. Earwax changes as you get older. It becomes drier and harder, and it migrates out of the canal less efficiently than it used to. The small hairs in the ear canal grow coarser with age, particularly in men, and they trap it. And if you wear hearing aids or earbuds, you are pushing wax inward every time you insert them. When wax fully blocks the canal, you get muffled hearing, a feeling of fullness or pressure, sometimes mild dizziness, and very often ringing. Now let me be extremely direct about what not to do. Do not use cotton swabs. A cotton swab does not remove wax from an ear canal. It compacts it against the eardrum, and it is one of the most common causes of perforated eardrums in adults. And do not use ear candles. They do not work. The residue people point to as proof is just melted wax from the candle itself, and they cause burns. Have it removed properly by a doctor or a nurse. It takes minutes, and if the ringing stops afterward, you've just solved your problem with the cheapest visit you'll make all year. Number 3, your ringing may be reporting on your blood pressure and your blood vessels. There's a specific kind of tinnitus here, and I want you to check yourself as I describe it, because the distinction genuinely matters. Most tinnitus is a steady, continuous sound, a tone, a hiss, a whine. It doesn't pulse. But some people hear something rhythmic, a whooshing or thumping that keeps time with their heartbeat. If you put your fingers on your pulse and the sound in your ear matches it, that is called pulsatile tinnitus, and it is a different animal entirely. Pulsatile tinnitus means you are hearing blood flow. That can happen because blood pressure is high, because you're anemic and blood is moving thinner and faster, because a nearby artery has narrowed and flow has become turbulent, or occasionally because of a vascular abnormality near the ear. Most causes are manageable. But pulsatile tinnitus is the one form that should always be evaluated rather than monitored, particularly if it's on one side. Do not let anyone wave that one off. For the far more common steady kind, blood pressure still matters. The blood supply to the cochlea comes through vessels so small that they have no meaningful backup route. When those vessels stiffen or narrow, the hair cells they feed are the first tissue in your body to suffer. This is one of the reasons hearing loss and cardiovascular disease track together so closely across large populations. Your inner ear is, in a real sense, a monitor on your circulation. Number 4, one of your medications may be causing it. This one is under-recognized, and I want you to take it seriously because it is often reversible if it's caught. There's a term for medications that can damage hearing, ototoxic, and a surprising number of extremely common drugs are on that list. High-dose aspirin and the anti-inflammatories many people take daily for joint pain can cause ringing, and this one is dose-related and frequently reverses when the dose comes down. Loop diuretics, the water pills prescribed for heart failure and blood pressure, can affect hearing, particularly at higher doses. Certain antibiotics, especially the aminoglycoside family used in hospitals, are well known for it. Some chemotherapy agents, quinine and related drugs. Here's the pattern to watch for. Did the ringing start or clearly worsen within a few weeks of beginning a new medication or having a dose increased? If you can draw that line, that's genuinely valuable information and your doctor needs it. But I want to be emphatic about the next part. Do not stop any of these medications on your own. Some of them are keeping fluid off your lungs or keeping your blood pressure controlled, and stopping them abruptly can do far more damage than the ringing ever will. What you do instead is bring a complete list of everything you take, prescriptions, over-the-counter tablets, and supplements, to your doctor or pharmacist and ask directly, is anything on this list ototoxic? And is there an alternative? Pharmacists are excellent at this question, and in most places, you can ask one without an appointment. Number 5, your jaw, your neck, or your teeth may be involved. This sounds unlikely until you understand how close together everything is in that part of the skull. Your jaw joint, The temporomandibular joint, which is what people mean when they say TMJ, sits directly in front of your ear canal, millimeters away. It shares nerve pathways and muscle attachments with the structures around your ear. The same is true of the muscles running up the back of your neck into the base of your skull. When those structures are strained, from grinding your teeth at night, from arthritis in the jaw, from dental work that changed your bite, from ill-fitting dentures, or from years of neck problems, that irritation can produce or worsen ringing. This is called somatosensory tinnitus, and it's more common than most people realize. You can test for it right now, and it takes about 10 seconds. Listen to the ringing, then clench your jaw firmly, then open your mouth as wide as you can, then turn your head hard to the left and hard to the right, then press firmly on the muscles just behind your jaw and at the base of your skull. If the ringing changes at all, louder, quieter, higher, different in character, you have a somatosensory component. That is genuinely good news because it's one of the more treatable forms. It points toward a dentist who handles jaw disorders, a physical therapist, or a night guard if you grind your teeth. Number 6, it may be reporting on your blood sugar, your thyroid, or your nutrition. The inner ear is metabolically demanding tissue, and it's fed by vessels among the smallest in your entire body. That combination makes it exquisitely sensitive to whole-body metabolic problems, which is why ringing sometimes turns out to be a systemic message rather than an ear problem at all. High blood sugar damages small blood vessels everywhere. That's why diabetes affects the eyes and the kidneys and the nerves in the feet, all small vessel territory. The cochlea is small vessel territory too. Hearing loss is meaningfully more common in people with diabetes, and for some people, ringing is one of the earlier hints that blood sugar has been running high for years without symptoms. An underactive thyroid is enormously common after 60 and routinely goes undiagnosed, partly because its symptoms, feeling cold, feeling tired, gaining weight, thinking a little more slowly, get filed under aging. It can contribute to tinnitus, and it is corrected with a tablet. Anemia can do it by changing how blood moves and how much oxygen reaches the inner ear. And vitamin B12 deficiency deserves a specific mention here because it's common after 60 and easy to miss. Stomach acid declines with age, which reduces B12 absorption, and two very widely used medication classes make it worse: metformin and the acid reducers like omeprazole that many people have taken every day for years without anyone revisiting the prescription. Every one of these is found on a basic blood panel. If your ears ring and you've never had blood sugar, thyroid, and B12 checked, that's a reasonable thing to ask for. Number 7, and this is the one I most want you to remember because it's the rarest and the most urgent. If your ringing is clearly in one ear only, it needs to be evaluated. Not monitored, evaluated. Tinnitus in both ears is usually a systemic story. The aging cochlea, circulation, medication, noise exposure over a lifetime. Those causes affect both ears roughly equally. But when it's firmly one-sided, especially if that same ear is also hearing less well, the picture changes. One-sided tinnitus with one-sided hearing loss can be caused by a benign growth on the hearing and balance nerve called an acoustic neuroma or vestibular schwannoma. It is not cancer. It is usually slow-growing, and when it's found early, the options are far better and far less invasive than when it's found late. It's identified with an MRI. Most one-sided ringing is not this, but this is exactly the situation where it's just age costs someone something real. And there is one more scenario that I need you to hear clearly because the timing is unforgiving. If you ever experience a sudden loss of hearing, over hours, or overnight, waking up and finding one ear noticeably muffled or gone, often with ringing and a feeling of fullness. That is a medical emergency. It's called sudden sensorineural hearing loss. Treatment with steroids can often recover a substantial amount of that hearing, but the window is measured in days. Roughly the first 72 hours matter most, and after 2 to 4 weeks, the opportunity is largely gone. The tragedy of this condition is that it doesn't hurt. Nothing hurts. So people wait for a routine appointment, or assume it's wax, or decide to see how it looks next week, and by the time they're seen, the treatable window has closed permanently. If that happens to you or to someone you love, it is same-day care, not next week. If your doctor can't see you, that is an urgent care or emergency room visit. I would rather you go and be told it was wax than not go and lose the hearing. Now let me tell you what actually helps day to day, because it would be unfair to explain 7 causes and leave you with nothing to do tonight. The single most effective thing for most people is sound. Silence is the enemy of tinnitus because your brain hunts for signal in quiet and finds its own noise instead. That's why it's always worst at bedtime. So don't give it silence. A fan, a quiet radio between stations, rainfall or ocean sound from a phone or a small bedside speaker. Anything that gives the brain something real to listen to. Keep it just below the level of your ringing, not above it. The goal is to blend the sound in, not to drown it out. Second, treat the hearing loss if you have it. I said it earlier and I'll say it again because it's the most underused intervention here. Hearing aids often reduce tinnitus substantially. Third, and this is the one with the strongest research support of anything I'll mention tonight, cognitive behavioral therapy specifically adapted for tinnitus. I know how that sounds. People hear therapy and assume I'm suggesting the sound is imaginary. I am not. The sound is real, but your brain decides, moment to moment, what to filter out and what to promote to conscious attention, and that filtering can be retrained. The ringing doesn't necessarily get quieter. It stops being the thing you notice. For persistent tinnitus, this approach has better evidence behind it than anything else available. Fourth, look at your own triggers honestly. For some people, caffeine, alcohol, nicotine, or a very high salt intake makes it noticeably worse. For others, none of them matter at all. Try removing one at a time for 2 weeks and pay attention. Fifth, protect what you still have. Every remaining hair cell counts. Wear ear protection for the lawnmower, the power tools, the shooting range. Those cells are not coming back. And sixth, sleep. Fatigue and stress amplify tinnitus reliably. It's a genuine loop. The ringing disrupts sleep. Poor sleep makes the ringing louder, and around it goes. Breaking that loop at the sleep end often does more than people expect. Let me speak plainly for a moment. Tinnitus has a reputation problem in medicine, and it's this: because you can't see it, can't measure it directly, and can't point to it on a scan, it gets treated as a complaint rather than a finding. Patients pick up on that immediately, so they stop bringing it up. They decide it's their burden to carry quietly, and they carry it for years. And meanwhile, the actual cost accumulates somewhere nobody's looking. People with untreated hearing problems stop going to restaurants because following a conversation over background noise becomes exhausting. They stop going to family gatherings because sitting at a loud table and understanding nothing is humiliating in a way that's difficult to explain to anyone who hasn't experienced it. They withdraw gradually, and everyone around them calls it getting older or getting quieter or not being very social anymore. That withdrawal is the real damage, not the sound. The isolation that grows behind it. So, if you take one thing from tonight, let it be this. Ringing in your ears is a legitimate medical finding, and it deserves a real answer. Walk into that appointment and say it plainly. My ears ring. It's in both ears, or one. It started around this time. It does or doesn't pulse with my heartbeat. I'd like a hearing test, and I'd like my medications reviewed. That sentence gets you further than a decade of mentioning it on your way out the door. Now I'd like to hear from you, and I read the comments. Which of the 7 matched what you're experiencing? And tell me 2 things specifically. Is it one ear or both, and does it pulse with your heartbeat? Those 2 details are the ones that change the answer the most, and I'm curious what the split looks like among everyone watching. And if this was useful, share it. There is someone in your life who has been told their ringing ears are just age and who has believed it for years. Send this to them. If the channel has earned it, subscribe. I'm building this into the resource I wish my patients had before they walked in. One last thing, and I'm going to be straight with you rather than smooth. A number of viewers have written to ask whether there's a supplement that helps. Here is the honest answer. No supplement has been proven to cure tinnitus or restore lost hearing, and anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. The hair cells do not grow back, and no capsule changes that. So the question I'm asked more than any other is a fair one. What can I actually do to support that tissue? There's a hearing support formula I've put a link to in the description below. It's called Zen Cortex, and it's built around the nutrients that inner ear tissue depends on, the same ones I walked you through tonight. If you'd like to give your ears that support while you go and get your hearing checked, click the link below this video and read the page for yourself. It comes with a money-back guarantee, which means you can try it and decide with your own ears. If it isn't for you, you send it back and you've lost nothing. Go ahead and click that first link in the description now, before you forget. These things always seem to slip away the moment a video ends. And full disclosure, because you deserve it from me. That's an affiliate link, and I do earn a commission if you use it. It doesn't change what you pay. Take care of your hearing. It's the sense that keeps you connected to every person you love, and it deserves far better than being ignored. And everything I've discussed tonight is general health information, not a diagnosis, and not a substitute for examination by someone who can actually look in your ears and test your hearing. Every cause I described has a range from harmless to serious, and only a clinician who knows your history can tell you which end you're on. Take care of your hearing. It's the sense that keeps you connected to everyone else, and it's the one people give up on far too early.